want to thank you, first of all, for coming out tonight. My name is Jonathan Quash. I'm the director of the York College Male Initiative Program. We are one of the original programs, part of the CUNY BMI program, Black Male Initiative, and we have been part of the program now from the beginning. This is our 7th year in the program. And we are so fortunate tonight to have our guest speaker, Mr. Ryan Mack, who's going to be introduced in a few minutes by Dr. Ron Daniels. But I just want to mention a couple things first, and that is that he is also, as you may know from the flyer, that he has a new book that's coming out. It's out, sorry, it's not coming out, but it's out. It's called Living in the Village, which is the theme of the conference tonight. And we have some copies here that we're going to be giving away that he's going to sign. So it's really a first come, first serve. So I don't have enough for everyone, but as many as I can. But we also have a copy of his financial plan that he left with us a couple of years ago when he was here. He did a part of our Economic Empowerment Conference, and he left with us this plan, this beautiful, beautiful plan. I actually gave out over 200 copies of this already, and it's called Educate, Plan, and Prosper. So if you are interested in that after he speaks, you can talk. I mean, you can pick up one of those as well, and we'll help give out the books at that time. But before he comes, I have a young man who's with us tonight who's going to talk just for a few minutes about a particular, well, it's still in the same theme of finance. He's a young man named Michael Verlis, who's a student at York College. He's a very, very energetic, very strong-minded student who does a great, great job in terms of academics, but also outside of academics. He's one of the architects of the Finance Club here at York College, and he is, has been part of my program now for a while. He's been working with other young men, Mr. Malcolm Lett, and as well as trying to recruit some other young students into this particular financial awareness that he's trying to promote. And so I wanted to give him this opportunity to come and just speak to you for just a couple of minutes. Can we just give a hand to Mr. Michael Verlis?
All right, hello. Hello, everyone. I want to first off thank Mr. Jonathan Quash for giving me this chance to speak to everyone today. A little bit about myself and a little bit about what it is that I do and my passion and for financial literacy. I also want to say it's really an honor, and a pleasure to be able to stand in the same place where Ryan Mack will get a chance to speak to as well. And I just also want to say in front of everyone to Ryan Mack that I sent you a friend request on LinkedIn last night. So I'm looking forward to an accepted request. And to all the York College students out there, I know sometimes you might see your fellow students, maybe you don't talk to them, or you just wonder who's that guy, whatnot. I don't know if you've ever seen me, but I'm just simply that simple guy with the shirt and the tie. And like Mr. Quash said, my name is Michael Verlis. I'm a York College student. I'm a business administration major with a concentration in finance and looking to have a minor in economics as well. And I'm also in business in part for the past 2 years with a Wall Street-based educational firm teaching people how to properly position themselves financially. I find that highly important. And with my current studies and my current endeavors, people might think that I'm just very interested and highly interested in people and in money. This is true. I am highly interested in people and in money simply because of this, because those are two things that, I don't know about you guys, but I have had a little bit of problems with the two of those things, people and with money. And so I want to figure out how exactly can I fix that? And having these little problems for my short life, I want to figure out how can I empower, how can I make more or help those in need. I'm 20 years of age. I'll be 21 on November the 1st. And so I'm definitely looking forward to your gifts on that day. Just putting that out there, okay? So, but when I get a chance to sit down with a client and I let them know a little bit about what I'm studying, a little bit what I'm doing, finance, business administration, they make this sort of face where it's like, this stuff is complicated, it's complex, math. How do you do it? So I just sit down there and I suck in the good feeling of seeming to be intelligent or whatnot. And I break it down to them very simple. I ask them 2 questions, which I'll ask you right now. What does finance mean? Can someone tell me what finance means? Just one person. What does finance mean? Yes, finance means to fund. That's all finance means. Finance means to fund. It's not complicated. Is it complicated? Finance just means to fund. Second question I asked them, and everyone can answer together. Who here is alive? Everyone's alive? Okay. So watch this. This is what I'm going to do. If you are all alive, it would only make sense that you finance or fund, like my friend back there said, fund your life properly. That makes sense? You have to fund your life properly. There's nothing that complicated about finance. And so the next question would be, how exactly do I finance my life properly? Well, ask yourself this question. Well, I'll ask some random person. Who here plays basketball? Oh, no, who here does not play basketball? Does not know how to play basketball? Does not know? Okay, so I'll ask you, Emmanuel. Emmanuel, if you don't know basketball, if I taught you the rules to basketball, I taught you the rules of the game, does that increase your chances of winning the game? Just because it does. He said yes. His chances of winning the game is increased if he knows the rules to the game of basketball, simply because he knows the rules. Now, let's put it in the aspect of money. Say if you knew the rules to money, would that increase your chances of having a little bit more than you have right now? Most definitely. Being educated in anything will increase your probability and your chances of being in a better position in that area. And that's why I find it very important that people understand how it is that money works. And it's not just about having the information and being knowledgeable. It's about what you actually do with that knowledge. A friend told me something, I found it kind of funny. I don't know if you guys will laugh. But one with knowledge, he said this, he said, one with knowledge knows that a tomato is a fruit. Tomato is a fruit because it has seeds inside. Then he went on to say that one with wisdom knows not to put a tomato in a fruit jar, in a fruit salad. So it kind of made me laugh. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of funny. Tomato in a fruit. I don't know if you guys do it. I don't eat tomato with other fruits. So it made me laugh. But it's all in informing and applying. You know, when I was younger, I crossed by a book called Rich Dad and Poor Dad. Is anybody familiar with that book? Rich Dad, Poor Dad? Good. I would highly recommend that book. That book is an excellent book. And just for those who don't know, Rich Dad, Poor Dad is basically about a young gentleman who had two fathers. Well, he had one father, but one was his biological father, and that so happened to be his poor dad. He called him his poor dad simply because he had a great education. He told him, get a great education, get a good job, graduate, get your degree, have a high-paying salary, and get some benefits. His rich dad his poor dad pretty much taught him how to be like him. So, you know, get a great education, get work, and have a high salary, and get some good benefits. His rich dad taught him how to be like him. Now, that just shows you right there, you need to surround yourself with people who you aspire to be like. So his rich dad, he stayed more around his rich dad in terms of learning how to be like him. And his rich dad taught him how to make money, how to live more comfortably, and the rules to money. He said there's 4 ways of making money. I'm just going to breeze by this. There's 4 ways of making money. It's called the cash flow quadrant. Has anybody ever heard of the cash flow quadrant? No. I'll explain to you what the cash flow quadrant is right now really quickly. The cash flow quadrant is 4 ways of making money legally. Okay, I just had to put that disclaimer, legally. So there's 4 ways. There's 1 being an employee, number 2 being self-employed, number 3 being a business owner, and number 4 being an investor. When you're employed, you have 9 to 5. You work when it is that your employer tells you to work. You make as much money as they say you're going to make. So if they say you work from 9 o'clock, you make $10 to 5 o'clock. That's how much you make. It kind of determines what kind of shoes you can wear, when you can have vacation, what kind of car you can drive, or even your zip code. That is what being an employee is. Now, there's nothing wrong with being an employee, all right? There's nothing wrong with being an employee. The next was the self-employed. Now, being self-employed, you're really good at what it is that you're doing. He taught his rich dad taught him. You're really good at what it is that you're doing. And self-employed kind of guy is the guy that says, if you want something to get done right, do it yourself. So self-employed, you can make as much money as you want, and nobody can limit you. But it's as much money as you can make. So if you don't work for a week, you're not making money that week. But the other days that you decide to work, however long you want to work, you can make as much money as you want. The third is the business owner. The business owner is pretty much just like the self-employed. He makes just as much, he can make even more money. I'll tell you why right now. He can make more money simply because he has trained and developed people to be able to run the business while he's not there. So if he takes a week off, his business can still be running and he'll still be generating income. So that's a little bit of a better position, I think, to be a business owner. And just to remind you also, what he also taught him, well, what I actually personally learned is that you don't build a business, you build people, and people build the business. The third is an investor. The investor is the guy who has money working for himself. He has, and money does not sleep. Money's always working on Wall Street. Money does not believe in any holidays. It doesn't celebrate Christmas, Easter, Kwanzaa. It doesn't have a birthday, or maybe it does, but it still works on that day too. It works every single day. So that's pretty much what an investor is. So his rich dad taught him how to be on side B of the quadrant, where there's the business owner and the investor. And having learned that, I'm like, you know, I don't want to call my dad a poor dad or anything, but I want to make sure that I'm learning from people who are going to teach me how to get to that next level, to not fall into the debt trap and those kind of things. And so I never believed that I needed to go, you know, through all of that. I never believed that I needed to have all these debts and not be able to pay them off, or live somewhere where I can't afford to buy things that I, you know, eventually won't be able to, you know, still have. And so I made sure that I learned how to do this. And I don't believe in the whole concept of making my own mistakes so that I can learn from them. Now, I did not say that I'm perfect. We'll definitely make mistakes, and we should definitely learn from them. But that does not mean that we should learn from other people's mistake. I believe that we should learn from other people's mistake and try to avoid making them so that, again, we can get to that next level. What I noticed is that the socioeconomic condition in middle-class Black America is just screeching for financial education. They need it so much so that they can be better informed, so that they can make well-informed decisions in regards to their financial household. And that's the only thing that is really going to help us as a society, as an individual, and as people to get, you know, ourselves in a better situation economically. And planning for your future is highly important as well. I understood, you know, the cash flow quadrant. I understood, okay, you have to make sure that in the future you won't have to deal with debts. But in order to know that, in order to apply that, you have to plan. You have to plan. Planning is highly important. And so I think it's very funny that we're so good at planning a vacation. Who here has ever planned a vacation? Planned vacation? I think we've all, you know, most of us has planned a vacation. So we plan something. So for a vacation, we know exactly what it is that we need to take. We know exactly what we have to pack. We even know the little snack that we have to have next to us so we can munch on while we're on our way. We know how long it'll take us to get there. We know when we'll get there. We'll know how much gas we'll use in order to get there. Why aren't we like that with our financial future? Why aren't we like that with our lives in that regard? Is escape better than our reality? I think these are things that we definitely have to take into account, especially when it comes to our finances, which is really not that complicated. And I also want to suggest the lack of error in the statement that says, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And so the reason why it is that I do what it is that I do, educate people and talk to them about finance and how to properly position themselves financially, is because what I really want to see, especially in the York College community and even the outside community, I want to see control. I want to see that we have control of our finances. I want to see that we have control of what it is that we want to do. You know, there are things that you can control, there are things that you can't control. You can't control the future of Social Security, but you can control your savings for retirement. You can't control your employer, but you can control other sources of income. You can't control your taxes, but there are definitely ways that you can reduce them. You can't control inflation or rising costs, but you can definitely maximize your saving and save more money. You can't, control the risk of single investments, but you can diversify your portfolio. It's all about how we take control of our financial future, and that is what's going to determine how we're going to be in the long run. And also how we manage from now. If we can't manage the little that we have, how can we manage more? How can we look forward to more? And I'll just remind my fellow Christians, if there's any Christians in here, and just anybody in general, the Bible even says the Lord calls us to be stewards, to be good managers of our property, our funds, and our goods. So it's good if we're good in controlling our finances. And just 8 little things that I'll leave you guys with that I think that are very crucial that you should definitely take with you is, number 1, pay yourself first. You know, just little concepts. Pay yourself first. Number 2, adjust your priorities. Number 3, change your way of thinking. The mind is a powerful thing. I read this book by Dennis Kimbrough. It's actually by Napoleon Hill. Dennis Kimbrough tailored it for the black community. It's called Think and Grow Rich. He talks about the mind, how powerful it is if you think something and if you really want to, you know, get to it, your desire, your enthusiasm for reaching goals, highly important. Change the way that you think. Adjust your lifestyle. Earn additional income if that's what you have to do. Realign your assets if you have any. And we all have. So let's realign them. Avoid the credit trap. And the last one, set your goals. There's no point of having all of that if you don't set any goals. Goal setting is highly important. And when I sit down with you know, some of my clients, I'll ask them, what are your goals and your dreams? And it's funny that most of their goals and their dreams, and they realize this, have a $ attached to it. How can you attain your goals and your dreams if you don't have a plan to get there? Or if you don't even have a goal to make it happen? Is it just a dream? Let's try to make it a goal. And I'll leave with this last thing. I'll tell you why people fail. I'll tell you why people fail right here, right now. This is the key to why people fail. I heard this from a good man. He said, people don't fail because they aim high and miss. People fail because they aim low and hit. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That's my time. It was a pleasure speaking to you guys.
Thank you so much, Mack. Very, very good job. I'm going to introduce now Dr. Ron Daniels. I just want to say, after he makes his introduction of Ryan Mack, we are going to allow some time, once Mr. Mack finishes, for some questions and answers. So I hope if he mentions anything that brings a question to your mind, and feel free to please write it down, and at the end, then we'll definitely have some opportunity for questions and answers. Don't forget, again, at the end, we're also going to give out the book. So at this time, we are so privileged and delighted to bring to the microphone the first and only distinguished lecturer of York College. He is the radio extraordinaire, television extraordinaire, the person that we are praying is the next host of Like It Is. Let's give a hand for Dr. Ron Daniels.
Good afternoon, everybody. Y'all got to come stronger than that now. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. That sounds a little bit better. You've been treated to a great opening presentation. They call it I guess in show business, what they call that, the opening act. What is that? You got a great opening act, and you got a tremendous act coming. Let me just say that it's an honor to be here again to participate in the conference. Unfortunately, I have to leave because I have to administer an examination at 6 o'clock to my class. They'd be terribly disappointed if I didn't show up. So I have to go do my professorial duties in that regard. But I do want to give props to Jonathan Quash. I do serve as an advisor to the Men's Center and the Male Initiative here, and I've had the pleasure of doing that since I've been here as a distinguished lecturer at York College. And it's a great program, and hopefully we'll continue to expand it and to build on it, because it is absolutely crucial that we deal with the issue of the crisis of men in American society, but particularly men of color, particularly African-American men, in my opinion. Editorial comment not attributed to Jonathan. It doesn't take much to introduce Ryan Mack. I don't really need to look at his resume, because his resume is not what impresses me. What impresses me about Ryan Mack, and this is incredibly important to particularly people of African color, people of African descent, is a sense that he is rooted in his community. When I made my presentation last Wednesday, I talked about Tobacco Road, about, you know, how sometimes it's dirty, it's filthy, and some of y'all don't, you would recall that because you know about Lou Rawls, you know, and his song Tobacco Road. But it's my home. And one of the things that Fannie Lou Hamer, one of our great freedom fighters, never got an education. She was a clock keeper on a plantation once, said, always remember where we came from and honor the bridges that brought us over. You're about to hear a man, when I first heard him for the first time, I fell in love with him. Fell in love with him because I knew he represents the future of who we are as a people. Because if we don't have a sense of not only acquiring skills, It's one thing to acquire skill, and I certainly don't knock that. Be doctors, lawyers, engineers, be whatever you choose to be. Make a whole bunch of money, if you will. But the most important part of that is to have a sense of conscience, a sense of social responsibility. The other day I talked about the fact that we have two black Americas, one that's doing pretty well, the other's not doing so well. Ryan Mack is not happy with that. So here's someone who has the gifts, the skills. He could be absorbed in Wall Street. He could be making a whole ton more money than he's probably making now. And he'd be like, you know, maybe Herman Cain. I mean, telling people that if you haven't made it, just, you know, it's your fault. Just go out and get a job and make it, right? But Ryan Mack comes out of the projects. He comes out of Tobacco Road. And he's been fortunate and blessed enough to have achieved at the highest levels. So you turn on CNN and see Ryan Mack. MSNBC, you see Ryan Mack. You see him representing, if you will. But what's the most important about him is that he is committed, whether it's in the projects where he takes time to go amongst the people to teach them financial literacy, or into prisons and jails, and now about to embark on an 8-city or whatever it is, 9-city tour, and I got to talk to him about that because every city you go into, Ryan, I know somebody, I got to hook you up in these cities, in order to pursue that end. And that's what we need. At this critical moment, when so many people, so many of our young brothers in particular, are being gunned down in the streets in callous acts of violence, we need healing. And a part of that healing is going to come from people like Ryan Mack, who will return to the community. And that's what I would say to my young, aspiring motivational speaker and planner. It's okay to be a great motivational speaker. It's great to be a planner. It's great to make a lot of money. But the most important thing is to have a sense of social responsibility, a sense of conscience. That's what we are the 99% versus the 1% is about today. We have too many people on Wall Street as a part of that 1% that have no conscience. They do not care whatsoever what happens to the 99%. They are only interested in making money. You will not find that to be the case with the speaker that you're about to hear now. He's visionary, he's dynamic, he's committed, he's gifted, but most importantly, he's caring, he's compassionate, and he's committed to the empowerment of black people and people who are oppressed, so that we can all get to the promised land. You know, we don't need just one or two getting to the promised land. We need to all get to the promised land. Would you please welcome Ryan Mack?
How's everybody doing? Bear with me for a second here. I have a little bit of a cold today, so I'll be taking a few sips of water every once in a while. I just want to say I think I can't imagine a more perfect introduction to have a brilliant man like Dr. Daniels, who I consider a mentor to me. He don't know it, but he is a mentor to me. Introduce me, and then also have a young brother, Michael, who I can see a lot of me in him. And if I could somehow do half of what Dr. Daniels has done for me, for you, then I would love to do so. So I appreciate you. I appreciate your passion. And I would love to just allow you to flourish and get out the way. Sometimes the older generation, and Dr. Daniels excluded from this comment, obviously, because the older generation doesn't know how to get out of the way of the younger generation. But Dr. Daniels has always been the one to say, Ryan, I want you to shine, and I will get out of your way and allow you to do all you can and help you out. And that's what our responsibility lies, and I appreciate that. I think that some of the civil rights movement might have left a little bit of that behind, and that's why I was so privileged to meet Dr. Daniels, because I saw in him a lot of what I heard about and read about with Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, of individuals who created bases of young brothers and sisters who could carry the torch and move on in the future. So I appreciate Jonathan Quash for putting this together. You're a friend in the struggle, brother. You know, we together, man. Whether you like it or not, you stuck with me, man. But I appreciate York College. I've had a lot of good times at York College. Met a lot of good people here at York College, and the students here have always been very receiving. So I appreciate York. I want to talk today a little bit about the importance of love as it relates to financial literacy. I don't think that love as it relates to what we have to do when it comes to what we do with money. And I think that sometimes if we understand the true context of what love really is, then we'll be a whole lot better stewards of money. I was, well, let me backtrack a little bit. This is something on my mind. I have to say it. I was in Detroit about 2 months ago, and I had the chance to sit on the panel discussion with two gentlemen who came on this tour to address poverty in my hometown. And now, I don't know if you're familiar with Detroit. I'm from Detroit. We have a, I don't like to bog down a lot of statistics, but 40% poverty rate, 47% functional illiteracy rate in my hometown. I could read a Spanish book better than almost half my hometown can read an English book. And I sat on this panel discussion. I only spoke for about 2 to 3 minutes, and these gentlemen came and they pointed out very eloquently. One came up and pointed out that there was poverty in my hometown. And he was very clear about it. He was very articulate. He was very concise. He was very passionate. And he talked about the fact that there's poverty that exists in Detroit. I said, okay. Another gentleman comes up. And again, he was passionate as well. He comes up and states very eloquently about the fact that there's poverty that exists in Detroit. And I listened. And I said, wow, okay, I understand. Now, poverty exists. And then they began to have lines formed up all throughout the town hall meeting, and people began to jump and race to the microphone to further exemplify the fact that there's poverty that exists in Detroit. And they came up one by one, each talking about the fact that poverty exists in Detroit. And after I sat there for about an hour, I had to do a CNN spot, and I went, and there was a Skype spot, so I was able to get on my computer, and I said I didn't want to miss it, so I had my computer, and I went up to the Wayne County Community College District, and I ran upstairs, and I got on my computer, and I did my CNN hit, and I came back down because I said they're going to be talking about something down here to talk about this poverty. I got to get involved. And as soon as I came back and I saw the tail end, for them, we reminded that the fact that poverty exists in Detroit. You know, for 2 hours, they discussed the fact that poverty exists in my hometown. I can tell you right now, you don't need 2 hours to tell you that poverty exists in Detroit. Matter of fact, now you know that poverty exists in Detroit. So we just saved about over 120 minutes. And this is what's going on. I mean, my people, we are suffering from a paralysis of analysis in our community that allows us not to move further because we're too busy worried about where we've been. And I'm not trying to say negate trying to learn from history, because not a single day I don't try to learn from history, and I don't read in books and learn about things. I mean, history helps me to learn and to have a grasp of concepts of the most important thing to move forward. The Sankofa bird is what? A bird that is looking backward, but the majority of the bird is moving what? Forward. I think we've got the forward part somewhere in there. And we're too busy worried about statistics, about what's wrong in the community. And sometime after a while, we start to realize, and we got all this chalkboard behind us of all these stats of what's wrong in the black community. What's wrong with education? What's wrong with financial literacy rates? What's wrong with unemployment? What's wrong with incarceration rates? We're so concerned about that, we forget about what we have to do to move forward. I'm not as concerned as what has happened as what we have to do to fix what has happened. And that's the part where we'd have to get to, fixing it. Because that's what our people have done for history. Throughout history, we are a people of fixers of society. And that's why do we fix things? Because we have love. We have love. We can go back to Imhotep, creator of math and science, who built the pyramids and started doing things. And Pythagoras, 2,000 years later, used a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and that's for the most part that gets the most credit. But Imhotep was using those same principles to build the first pyramid. How did he do that? In order to shape the world of history, because of love. It says in the good word, our love must not be a thing of words and fine talk. It must be a thing of action and sincerity. It must not be a thing of words and fine talk. It must be a thing of action and sincerity. So I'm here to tell you, if you don't have any action to correspond with your supposed love, you don't have no love. You don't have love if you sit back and think that you say, I love this, and just like the old BDP song, I love my car. Love's gonna get you. Remember that song, Gonna Get You? Love's gonna get you. We don't really know what love is sometimes. Love is what Queen Candace did. When Alexander the Great came down to Ethiopia and said, I'm going to take over Ethiopia. And Queen Candace loved her people enough to be the best military tactician of her time and made Alexander the Great, this great conqueror, run away with his tail between his legs. That's why Egypt was conquered and Ethiopia wasn't. That's called love. Love is what individuals do, like a Stokely Carmichael. Individuals, I say folks all the time, I got a $1 million ring on my finger. Sometimes I wear my class ring. I say, this thing is worth $1 million. Why? Because individuals who earn this class ring will make $1 million more than those who did not earn this class ring. But I don't make one mistake in not remembering the fact that Stokely Carmichael and the stuff that he used to do back in the day cleared the way to me to be able to earn this class ring. Because of love and what he did in order to create a way. What sort of love, and especially when you combine a little bit of faith in love. See, faith is the tool that allows you to utilize your love. You have love and you love something, you're passionate about something, and then you implement faith, and oh, you got something powerful. Because faith is half belief and half acting on that belief. Do you love your people enough to believe in them? But do you also love your people enough to act on that belief to empower them? Everybody can open up a door and be polite to someone, but can you create a door for somebody? That's called love. That's called love, and that's what we're lacking in our society. Not enough love. Love that made Harriet Tubman truly great. I ask people all the time, name me one slave that Harriet Tubman freed. People can't do it. Maybe history buffs might be able to do it. I couldn't do it. But Harriet Tubman was a successful freed slave, but she did not want to stop at just being successful. She had to go back and get somebody else and become great. And that's why you can't remember the other freed slaves, because they might have been successful, but unlike Harriet Tubman, she became great, because greatness is what you do for other people, and success is only what you do for yourself. Success plus love equals greatness. And that's when you get true empowerment. Understanding, just like Madam C.J. Walker said, why did you want to be the first African-American millionaire? She said, the more money I make, the more people I can help. Because of love, that she decided that I'm going to get off the slave fields. I'm going to get into working in cleaning out tubs for the master, and I'm going to work my way up, and I'm making $10 a week. And her husband said, baby, that's enough. She said, no, it's not enough, because my people still need help. So she created an enterprise that employed thousands of people. Because of love, because of something that she cared enough of what other people need in their society. What sort of love and faith did it take for a doctor named Daniel Hale Williams to say that I can open up somebody's chest and make your heart work again for the first time in history? What sort of love did it take to do that? To have that vision, to have that gumption to say that I'm going to open up your chest and perform this surgery on your chest and make it work again. It's going to start beating again, and you will have life. I'm going to love you enough to give you your life back. What sort of love did it take for someone to have that? What sort of love did it take for someone named Garrett A. Morgan to say that I'm going to be able to walk into a room full of gases, and I'm going to create something that's going to help you breathe in a room full of poisonous gases, so people will stop dying when all these gases come around? What sort of love did it take to have that? To say that I'm going to sit back and plan in order to make that happen. That's called real love. And you know, I have to, going back and I think about my childhood. And I did some foolish things growing up. I think we all have. I've done some foolish things, and I've made some foolish mistakes. And I remember I used to be a golf caddy, and I caddied for about 9 years. And in the middle of Detroit, they got this golf course. It's funny because for years, I started working when I was about 12 years old. For years, we would go by this course, and I would never see it because it was an oasis in the middle of the whole city. You couldn't even see it, guarded by trees. It was a private course. And until I started working there, I never knew it existed. I didn't know this golf course was there. So we would go in. I worked there for 9, 10 years. Got a scholarship off of that, as a matter of fact. But every day we would come out, and the people that we worked with, we would go and we would, talk stuff in the park. They had a park on the outside of the course. We would talk stuff and just talk and about the day and whatnot, as kids do. We just hanging out. And I remember one particular day, it was about maybe 15, we were about 15 deep that day. And we were just talking, and I was, sometimes when you're about 16 years old, you get into debates with your friends. You get back and forth, and you're vibing. And I'm debating with folks, and I don't even know what we were talking about. But a gentleman across the street started walking and he was across the street about maybe about 70 to 80 yards away from where we were at. Because we were a little bit into the park, and he was across the street. And he started to yell at us. He started to yell obscenities at our way. Started to curse our way and was cursing us out. And my friend Tommy says, "Oh, man, don't worry about him. He's just talking stuff because he's probably strapped." And I'm in the middle of my argument. I'm not paying attention to anything was going on. I'm going back and forth, and we all look, oh, whatever, okay. Sure enough, the gentleman goes up, opens up his jacket, and he has a gun. And he fires it into the air 2 or 3 times. Pop, pop, pop. True story. What did we do? Did we run? No, didn't run. Did we go for cover? No, didn't even do that. Didn't have enough sense to do that. See, sometimes there's a fine line between fearless and foolish when you're young. It's a real fine line. I'm so concerned about my argument. I'm sitting here seeing this dude shoot up in the air across the street. We looked. Tommy goes and says, "Oh, man, put that stuff away." And he curses back at him. He starts yelling at the dude with the gun. Finally, the guy puts the gun and walks off, and then we go back like nothing ever happened. And I think about that sense of, that callousness, that sense of almost numbness that you have. It's almost, sometimes kids today, and I don't even know where we get it from, just being numb to the ways of society, being numb to what's going on in our communities, numb to, just the other day, a woman of 13 children, pregnant, shielding her children from gunshots, get shot. What sort of numbness was the shooter up in Brownsville, New York? And everybody will tell you, Brownsville, we do a lot of work with police officers, the most dangerous place in the city of New York. The most dangerous place in the city of New York. What sort of numbness did that shooter have to just start shooting bullets and not even care about what's going on, to be so numb to things that's going on in society? I mean, I can tell you stories about growing up, going to parties, and especially in Detroit, the party was it was over when it was 1:30, 1:30 in the morning, we 16, 17 hanging out, 1:30 in the morning, or when they started shooting outside. That's when the party was over. And we're so stupid and so numb to society that when they started shooting, our first thing was not to run and duck, was to look at the security guard, see if he's going to shut the party down, because we didn't want to stop partying. So we're looking at the security guards, oh man, he's going to shut the party down? And then okay, lights come on, it's 12:30, everybody has to go home. What do? Oh man, oh, we're numb. This numbness, no feeling to what's going on in society. Numb. I had a friend of mine in the parties I've been to many times, again, got shot in the foot, jumping out of a window. I think about the stuff that we used to do, and then I think about the numbness that goes on, and when that one young woman gets shot and killed, it's like something's disconnected. It's almost like we have this thing called this Novocaine. When you're at the dentist's office, it's like the dentist, if he wants to pull your tooth, he'll want to pull your tooth out, and you're going to fight him because it hurts. But what's the dentist do? He puts Novocaine in your jaw. So you don't feel anything, so you suffer peacefully. So all around you, your blood bleeding all down your jaw, but you're not moving, you don't feel anything. But you're suffering. And your body's hurting, but you don't feel anything. It's Novocaine. It's a lot of Novocaine in our hood, folks. Something was going on is not allowing us to really fully appreciate the gravity of exactly what's happening to our people. And we've done workshops, again, this month, we've done over 20 workshops. We're doubling and tripling up this month as a part of this whole Let's Talk More Action tour. In prisons, working with gangs, working with formerly incarcerated. And the stories that you hear, I mean, I don't know about y'all, but we got to get rid of this Novocaine because I can't be numb no more. I can't be numb anymore. We can't be sit back and allow ourselves to just sit back and allow these things to continue in our communities to just happen without us trying to do something to defend against it, of these outside forces that are taking our kids away, that are taking our communities away, that are making sure that, and I know we talk, Ryan, what's this got to do with financial literacy? I'm going to get there in a second, but it's on my mind. It's on my mind because so many, man, I'm telling you, we go from working with MS-13s out there in California all the way to working with those who are in shanty towns of South Africa. We've done workshops and financial empowerment workshops with them. And I have a lot of stories, and sometimes I try my best not to hold all the burden of all their troubles on, but it's hard not to just sit back and allow it to not affect you a little bit. But I can't sit back anymore. We need less talk, more action, y'all. We can't keep talking about this stuff over and over and over and over again. We analyzing these problems. We analyzing, we're talking about these statistics. You know, I'm telling folks, if you want to hear statistics, go to Google. They got all the statistics you want in the world. If you want to complain, go see a therapist. Let's figure out what we got to do to get to work. And that's what love is about. Back to Madam C.J. Walker. Why does she want to make more money? Because the more money she made, the more people she could help. There was no self-serving nature about what she wanted to do. She understood that she had to put herself in a better position in order to lend a hand more effectively. And that's what financial literacy is all about. Financial literacy isn't about how much money you can make. Financial literacy, all it is just removing the obstacle of money so it allows you to really truly fulfill your passion and purpose in life, so money will not be an obstacle or liability. It will be an asset to you. It'll help you move forward. It'll help you lend a hand to someone. We were supposed to be lenders, not borrowers. We're on the other side. We're on the wrong side of the coin. So financial literacy helps us learn of what we have to do to get on the right side of the coin. And what we have to really first learn how to do in the essence of financial literacy is love and faith, believing and action. There's a story I love in the Bible. It's about how Jesus helped the blind man to see. And I think this is the clearest demonstration of faith you could ever read. The clearest demonstration of faith you could ever read. Blind man comes up and says, I know you're a great man, help me see. So Jesus, what does he do? As great as he is, he spits in some clay, rubs it, and puts it in his eyes and says, I want you to walk 2 miles and then wash out to the riverside. Wash out your eyes and you'll be able to see. See, sometimes God gives you an instruction to justify your blessing. And as he says, walk 2 miles, the blind man had a choice. He could have said, man, why don't you just cure me right here? I don't feel like walking today. I'm too tired. I've been walking all day. How you gonna? I know you're the man of miracles. Just cure me right where I stand. You know, sometimes we fight our blessings off because we just don't feel as if it's for us, or sometimes we don't have the energy or want to summon up the energy in order to go out and get what we deserve. We have to ask ourselves sometimes, you know, what right do you have to ask for something if you haven't worked for it yet? See, that whole story demonstrates a level of walking to the, see, sometimes we have to walk. And if we're real with ourselves, in 2007, it was caused, a recession that was caused by a whole lot of individuals, government, corporations, and individuals at the same time who felt not like walking. Didn't feel like, let's talk about individuals. Individuals saying, I want to go back and go to school, and I'm trying to get back to school, but you haven't applied for any scholarships. You haven't researched and talked to individuals in the student aid department. You haven't started walking yet. Individuals saying, I want to purchase a home. I got a 500 FICO score with no money in the bank. You haven't started walking yet. Individuals sitting back and saying that I want to start a business because I've read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and you know what? Now all of a sudden I'm an expert because I've read one book. I don't have a plan, no direction. You haven't started walking yet. Say, Ryan, you know, I want to make sure I can give back to my community. I think that giving back is very successful, but you have no money to give. You haven't started walking yet. It's time for us as a people to start walking. And financial literacy is all about making sure that we can learn how to walk. It's time for us to stop waiting on our ship to come in. It's time for us to start swimming out to it. It's time for us to start learning how to swim out to it. It's time for us to start learning about the elements of the budget. Learning about how much money was, because there's only three things you can do with money. There's only three things you can do. You can spend it, you can save it, you can give it away. You can spend, save, or give. If you really break it down that way, but over 90% of our dollar goes on spending, which leaves very little left to give and very little left to save. If you just do that one strategy, you know what? Every single dollar that I spend, if I just stop for a quick second and think to myself, you know, am I spending this dollar? Am I saving this dollar? Or am I giving this dollar away? Just think about it. You know, you might want to go get a little bit more complex and put a 30-day spending diary. That's called walking. That's called walking and monitoring the exact amount of expenditures that you're doing every single day so you can start tracking where you're going. That's called walking. You know, sometimes, especially with the budget, individuals, I mean, I always tell folks, never shop when you're bored. Never shop when you're emotional. Never shop when you're happy. Never shop when you're sad. You know how it is. We always have reasons. Emotional shoppers become addictive shoppers. And we become addictive to spending because, oh, girl, you just lost your boyfriend. Let's go shopping. Oh, girl, oh, man, we just won the basketball game. I just got a promotion at work. I'm going out to eat. Let's go out to eat. Let's celebrate. Let's spend some more money. You know, and then we sit back and we don't even realize that these tricks that they're playing on us in order to make us spend money and crash our budgets. Because 60% of us are spending more money than we earn every single month. But we don't realize it might have been because when we go and try on those shoes at the store and they make you or they allow you to try on 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 pairs of shoes, and what do? You feel guilty. They haven't bought a pair of shoes. When the day before they said, you know what, make them try on as many pairs of shoes as possible because they're going to feel guilty about not buying a pair of shoes. And we don't understand that the folks in the Bronx Macy's don't shop at the place in the Brooklyn Macy's. So what they'll do is they'll put the best ads in the paper at the Brooklyn Macy's. So you come and running. You come and running because it's a sale. You go to the Brooklyn Macy's and the item is gone. But now you're in the store, so you might as well go ahead and buy something. Where'd the item go? All they did was ship it from the Brooklyn Macy's up to the Bronx Macy's. Because now you're saying, doggone it, next time I see something, I'm going to be the first person to buy that new shirt. Because I'm not going to wait anymore. They're going to get my money. We become competitors to give our money away. How do you think they put this new Nike shoes? Because they have a limited amount of size 10 in the Nike shoes. We go to the store. We get to the front. Size 10 sold out. Doggone it. Next time I'm going to be the first person in line to give you my $200. Because y'all going to get my money whether you like it or not. I don't care what you got to say. Y'all going to get my money. We become, in a competition, we get elbowing people in line. Look at the new iPad. People wrapped up around the corner because 4 o'clock in the morning. Just because we want to sit back and be the first person in line to get that new iPad. It's going to be cheaper in a little couple months. No, I got to get it fresh off the market because it's different if you get it in May as opposed to if you got to wait till a few months later on. That May iPad is going to be a whole lot better than that June iPad. It's a different one. We don't even realize it. It's that impulse sales strategy that they get you with. It's a strategy that they use. They've done research on making sure that when you walk down by stores, scents and aromas that attract people. They put the music on in the stores. People dancing. Nice-looking women in the stores. So all of a sudden, here we come and running. Well, she's kind of cute. All right, let me see what's going on over here. We go in the store spending more of our money. Money that we hadn't even planned on spending. We have this fear around us. I just got a call. It's on my mind. I just got a call from someone because everybody's talking about the new next hot thing. Ryan, what are we investing in now? What are we going to invest in now? This is the new next hot thing. You know, back in 2000, it was stocks. Everybody wanted to buy stocks. Everyone wanted to jump out and buy stocks. And they run because why? Because the media. I just did we did a workshop the other day on how the media takes your mind and morphs it all up to make you think and feel that the investments that you hadn't even thought about before. Nobody in 2000 was thinking, or 99 and 2000 was thinking about stocks until the media started highlighting all these individuals getting independently wealthy off stocks. I want to remind you, I was a trader for 6 years. You're never going to hear a losing trade. You're never going to hear you never heard a losing trade on the street. You never heard a losing trade. Why? Because they don't tell you the money they lost. They only tell you the money that they won. I made X amount of dollars, man. You better jump in. I remember sitting next to one of my buddies. I said, man, but you just bought like 3 or 4 stocks yesterday. You bought 3 or 4 stocks yesterday. I know all those things dumped. How come you're not telling me about those? Oh, man, well, you know. Few folks get rich, and next thing you know, the internet stocks blow up, and next thing you know, everybody wants to jump in. They turn investing into gambling overnight. What happened? Real estate, stock market crashed. Everybody started putting money into real estate. Put money into real estate. People started buying so many houses, and the demand was so high because of the media and everything was pumping up what the next hot thing was. Because, I lost all my money in stocks. Well, what's the next hot thing? Real estate and gold at the time. Real estate. The demand was so high that the mortgage companies did what? We got to create special type of products so that get all these clients, to come up against us and buy this piece of property. How, and they thought about it. How can we make this person or allow this person with no money in the bank and a 500 FICO score, how can we get them into a piece of property? It doesn't matter to us. We're going to sell the liability up the way anyway. It's not going to be our liability. We're going to sell your piece of property. We're going to take this loan. We're going to sell it up the road. And next, we're scot-free. We made our commission. Who's next? Who's next? So we put money into the real estate market. All of a sudden, the real estate market, we saw these returns that, as far as I'm concerned, we're never going to see again in our lifetime. Those returns, and you know what? I hope that we never see those type of returns in the real estate economy in our lifetime. Not sustainable. They're not sustainable. So we're putting all this money in the real estate market, and what happens? Crashes. Bubble bursts. And everybody wondering what happened. Because you was a chump, that's what happened. You got suckered, that's what happened. You sat back and allowed this person to come in front of you with a big, thick document and say, just don't worry, don't trust me. Just trust me and sign this piece of paperwork and you'll be okay. You'll be quite okay. Just sign it, you'll be a new crib by tomorrow. I'll give you keys. And so we're so scared, we're so fearful of losing and not being a part of this bubble. I can't miss out. I have to jump in. I can't miss on this opportunity. So what do? We buy the piece of property, no money in the bank, 500 FICO score. Next thing you know, that $500 mortgage becomes a $1,000 mortgage. You're like, what happened? You didn't read the fine print, brother. And I'm not sitting back saying that they were right in doing so. But we've got to get beyond this mentality that people that are sitting across the desk from us are always going to have our best interests at heart. It's a verse in the Bible that said, cursed is a man that trusteth in man and maketh flesh his arm. Cursed is the man that trusteth in man and maketh flesh his arm. So why are we trusting Bernie Madoff with all our money? Why are we trusting Enron and Kenneth Lay with every single dollar that we had? Why are we trusting this mortgage broker who has a commission on the line to sit back and allow us to buy the biggest investment of our lifetime without adequate research? Of course, yeah, they're wrong. And now people say, well, Ryan, they're wrong for doing that. Of course they were wrong. But you allowed it to happen. No one forced you to sign the paperwork. It's time for us to understand that knowledge in this economy is going to be our strongest weapon. It's going to be our strongest defense. Where there is no knowledge, our people perish. Our people suffer from lack of knowledge. And that's what we're doing. We're doing a whole lot of suffering now. I think it's time to get some hard truth in this thing here. It's It's time to get some hard truth, because again, there was enough blame to go around, and truthfully so, if there's any blame that was probably the largest on why this economy busted, I'll give it to the corporations. Because foreclosure was happening long before 2007. We've had foreclosures all throughout the history of this economy. We've had people spending too much money on things that they don't need to impress people they don't like all throughout the history of this economy. We've had this all throughout our lifetime. We've had folks overspending. We've had individuals going out and being a little bit irresponsible with capital, but we never had banks that were supposed to have 5-to-1 debt-to-equity ratios. Now they're 40 and 50-to-1 because now they've had this special magic product, and they can now combine this commercial and investment side of the bank, and now we can just go ahead and start over-leveraging ourselves and make everybody's money. We never had that before. So yeah, the banks instigated it. They instigated this process. I agree. I'm fully into, look, people ask me what I feel about the Occupy Wall Street movement. I'm in support of it. I'm in support of the Occupy Wall Street movement. These banks, and somebody needs to go to do some sort of prison time or something. No indictments and all this stuff. You turn our economy around and nobody's even indicted for something? I mean, what's going on? They essentially were able to do one of the largest thefts in the history of this country, if not the largest theft in the history of this country. In 10 years, 20% of our gross national net worth was eliminated. 20% gone. That took us centuries to build. Gone in 10 years. But, someone's on the other side signing that paperwork, allowing them to act, allowing them to do it. And again, I come from both sides. So sometimes, especially in our community, we have this singular mindset. And some people say, well, Ryan, we need systematic change. We need systematic change. And one person will say, well, no, Ryan, you need to be personally responsible. Systematic change, no, personally responsible. Why can't we do both? Why can't we go out and picket? And that's why it's one concern I have with Occupy Wall Street. I'm like, shoot, they're supposed to be out looking for jobs. They're out there camping all the doggone time. I mean, isn't it a way you might be able to camp for a little bit and then picket for a little bit? And I'll join you. I go down there and I picket and I say, hey, all right, let's go. But then I'm going to go back to work. I got to get back to work sometime. We can't picket all the doggone time. So in their way, it might be a good happy mix. Systematic change as well as personal responsibility. That's where financial literacy comes into play. That's where economic empowerment comes into play. We fail to understand that over half of the S&P 500 were formed during times just like this. Over half, I'm going to say that again. Over half of the S&P 500 was formed during times just like this. Why is that? When you show me a hungry person, I'll show you a real creative person. The more hungry you get, the more creative you get. I went through it. My company flourished. Why? Because I got hungry, literally. Left Wall Street. 12 months later, funds were running low. Debts were high. Had to smile, but I had to sigh. So I was struggling. Cheese nips and tuna fish. Lights went off. Light a candle, keep on going. That's okay. Heat goes off. Go around and go. I'll just use a library computer. That's all right. I got to keep on pushing. My faith is too strong to get stopped by some lights going to get turned off. Heat get turned off. That's all right. Give me a blanket, extra blanket at night. That's all right. As long as my rent's paid, I'm good to go. My vision, because on the other side, I understood that on the other side of my effort, on the other side of my diligence and hard work and blood, sweat, and tears and determination, there was somebody waiting on me to bless them. So I couldn't stop. So that we have to have a level of both systematic change as well as personal responsibility. Because on the other side of your efforts, I remember the first time we worked with a gang member. We've worked with a few. Just 2 months ago, two brothers came and he said, Ryan, I want to borrow $100. So I'm not going to give you a dime. I said, but I will do. If you go to Wix.com, I know you are good at graphics design. So I want you to form your own graphics design company. You go to Wix.com and fill it up with content, form a website. You go to inkitnow.com and form yourself an LLC, at least print out the paperwork in order to fill out the paperwork for your LLC. You go to BEOC, Brooklyn Education Opportunity Center. Just getting his education, his electrician's license. Now, at one point in time, was employing 10 other bloods and 2 project managers. How do we help them? Because I had enough time to do it. I had enough time to sit myself down and sit in the chair and say, you know what? Let me help you out. Because as the brother Michael said, my money was being made. My money is being made. Things are provided for. That's the essence of financial literacy. That's the essence of financial literacy. So we have to start doing things like making sure we go to annualcreditreport.com. It don't matter how unfair or unjustified you think the government's doing, that don't stop you from going to annualcreditreport.com and printing out a free credit report and looking at, and over 75% of your reports in here have errors on them, and making sure you can start checking all that stuff off. No matter how mad you might get it and join an Occupy Wall Street movement, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't understand at the end of the day you need a budget, or the predatory insurance practices are very dangerous and you might need some life insurance in order to protect your family. Or if you have a business and you got a key person, at the end of the day you might want to get some term life insurance or whole life if you have enough money to afford it, to protect that business partner in case he passes away. That doesn't, these exterior things mean nothing on those individual decisions. There are certain decisions that we have fully control over. There are certain things such as, and understanding again, there is evidence of ignorance all throughout our communities. Evidence of ignorance, what is that? Why do you think that rent a center is only prevalent in the Bronx and in Brooklyn? Yeah, but you go up in the Bronx, you see all the, if you Google it, Google rent a center in New York City. You're going to see all these little red dots. It's going to look like the measles. All up in the Bronx and all down there in Brooklyn. Why do they think? Because that's where they can make money. There's only 2 in Manhattan, one by Columbia, because they can try to get at the students, and one right by the Brooklyn Bridge, right before you go home. Why do you think they put that stuff there? Why do you think that at the end of the day, will come around April or at least in January, people start saying, get your money right now for your tax return. You don't have to wait. Get your money today. Get yourself, you got a $1,000 tax return, estimated $1,000 tax return. Go ahead and get yourself a $1,000 check today. You don't have to wait. You walk out, I'm going to write you a check today. $1,000. Doesn't that seem nice? They don't tell you about the 200 to 300% interest rate that's attached to it for that refund anticipation loan. And now you thought you were going to get $1,000. Your tax return come in at $500. Now you're on the hook for the whole $1,000 and a 200 to 300% interest rate. Rent a center making you pay $7,000 for a $2,000 toaster. You know, this stuff right here, it's evidence of ignorance. They capitalize on what we don't know, and we allow them to do it. We sit back, we watch the television, and who we see? Russell Simmons saying that we gotta spend money to use our own money. I never heard of that. I've seen people spend money for water. Seen people spend money on air because you got to get your tire filled up at the gas station. And when they started charging $0.25 50 cents for that, that blew my mind. You paying money for air. Now you got to spend money to use your own money. Can't even reach in your pocket and spend $1 without getting taxed on your own dollar. If I have $1, I want to spend $1. But no, not according to what Russell Simmons said. You can use this Rush card. It's empowering. And what do we say? We see a rich man, oh, why? He must be correct. He done sold out. He done sold out, you don't even know. And you sitting back and following him because you think that you assume that he might have the education information that's going to empower you, spending up all your money. Sit back and we go inside and I talk to him, and if it's my goat when these brothers come home from the pen talking about something, I don't want to get a bank account because I got child support. All these folks going to these check cashing places taking 1 to 4% of every single dollar you spend or that you earn. You can't take your whole check home. You worried about making enough money, living check to check, and you giving all your money to check cashing place and get your money even in your pocket. Talking about I don't have enough money. Of course you don't. They got your money. They got all your money over there. And you talking about, well, I don't want to get a bank account because I'm trying to avoid paying child support. What happens? And I've seen it happen, especially when the brother's coming home from the pen. I've had some very candid conversations. Just had one last night with a whole group of them. People saying, well, I'm not trying to pay child support. I said, what you've essentially done, you've limited your growth. You've put a top on exactly how far you're going to go in your economic success. You are now limited to how far you're going to go because you don't want to take care of your child. And I can promise you, over the long run, if you get yourself into the banking system, learn how to do it correctly so you have to pay all these fees, there's a way to learn how to navigate it. Go to a credit union. Credit unions, I like to, especially either local banks or credit unions. I'm a strong advocate of using the local banks and the credit unions. The local banks didn't do all this mess. They weren't the ones that started doing all this additional leverage. The local banks have a vested interest in you to be successful because you are the one that pay their bills and keep their lights on. So if you get a business and your business flourishes and that bank starts flourishing as well, the local banks are tied to the local community. Same with the credit union. Credit unions essentially allow, you are a part owner of the credit union. They don't have to pay dividends to some stock shareholders. They don't have to do all of that. So if you get yourself in a system, I was telling the brother, if you get yourself in a system and minimize or pay no expenses, what's going to happen is you're going to establish credit. What's going to happen is that you're going to start allowing yourself to grow because a lot of these brothers are trying to start own companies. They're getting paid under the table. There's a reason why people, one of the first things they do if you want to form a successful business is to file it. Hey, I'm going to pay my taxes. That's okay. But I'm going to figure out how to minimize my taxes. But it's going to be legitimate because they understand that this little under the table crap don't work. This little nickel and dime stuff has to go. If we truly want to maximize our wealth, if we truly want to move ourselves forward economically, but we stuck on this nickel and diamond mindset. We happy just to be a little penny-ante hustler, making little nickels and dimes. You see all the money they made on Wall Street. I mean, shoot, I know you might be mad at them, but look how much money they were making. And I'm not trying to say, again, I'm a capitalist. I tell everybody that. I like capitalism. I just don't like greedy capitalism. Capitalism did not destroy this economy. Greed did. You take the greed out of capitalism, you be successful. You can allow yourself to move forward. But before we start businesses, we have to understand the importance, again, getting insurance for our families. Do you have a will, a living will, a healthcare proxy, durable spring and financial power of attorney? Is your estate plan in order? 30% of all legal fees occur in probate court. We so busy trying to worry about who's going to get this and who's going to get that. All our estate gets left to Uncle Sam. It gets taken from us. Say the wise man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. How are you supposed to leave an inheritance to your children's children if Uncle Sam got all your inheritance? You got to put our estates in order. Getting books like Set Your House in Order that allows you, especially for married couples, you go to crown.org and they got this workbook and you get your Set Your House in Order workbook and you fill it out from cover to cover. Fill it out from cover to cover. You're going to learn about all the different assets. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to clients, couples, and one of them come back to me afterward and say, okay, Ryan, I got another account, but I want to know what I can do with it. I said, oh, Lord. I just don't want him to know that I have it. Can you help me out with that one too? Merge these assets together. Let's start being productive with our assets. We're not using the most powerful tool in our community. I'm going to tell you right now, the most powerful tool in our community is us. It's us. We are the most powerful tool in our community. None of us is as strong as all of us. We do family empowerment workshops. You know how many jobs we've created? Not we've created, but families have created by just pulling the family together and figuring out who don't have a job. Let's just say that this was a family. This is an immediate family. Let's just say, okay, you got your friends, you know, the close friends that you trust, and your extended family, your cousins, your aunts, your uncles. You got your close family. Everybody comes together, and we sit down, and we ask questions. Who don't have a job? People raise their hand. What sort of job you looking for? Imagine if we had all our friends and family over here. We've had meetings just like this with nothing but just friends and family. We'll ask a question. Who don't have a job? Okay, come on up to the front. What type of job you looking for? Construction. Anybody have any connections for this brother in construction in the family? What type of job you looking for? Teaching. Anybody got any connection with teaching in the family that can help this brother out? Who has their own company? Another question that we ask in the Family Empowerment Program. Who has their own company? A lot of times people in the family don't even know the people that started their own businesses. We can't support something we don't know about. We've seen individuals, because they knew how to make jewelry, check this story out. A woman knew how to make jewelry, was about to go into foreclosure. How did she avoid going into foreclosure? She took her jewelry, and at the family empowerment meeting, one of the individuals in the family was a previous principal, had connections in the schools. She took her jewelry to the connections in the schools, set it up in a teacher's lounge, and made enough money to pay the mortgage. Just by selling jewelry that she made. Couldn't have happened unless she did what? Talk to the family. It's a good verse in the Bible that said, "Blessed is the Lord and Father of our God, Jesus Christ, who hath blessed us with all spiritual blessings in heavenly places in Christ." Who hath blessed us with all spiritual blessings? That means it's already been done. So all we got to do is figure out how we can use it. The resources are here. Ask your family at the family empowerment meeting. Meet once a month outside of Christmas and all the other stuff that you normally meet folks at. Meet once a month and make it a business meeting. Get yourself a third-party administrator, somebody who's not trying to pitch to you, so probably not a financial advisor, but someone who knows about finances a little bit. See, I couldn't do my family because I'm just Lil Ryan. My own family. I couldn't even do it. I had to get a third party to come in, and we gathered everybody up and asked the questions. Who has their own company? Can we make that a family business? How do we go about making it a family business? Who's going to foreclosure? Who's about to walk away from the piece of property? We actually had, in our situation, aunts, we put them on the spot. She was about to lose a piece of property. The other aunt was about to get evicted. So she moved into the other place, and now they kept the piece of property. We giving up legacy. People over here, the reverse mortgage is getting very prevalent in this economy. Reverse mortgage, if you don't know, essentially you work hard to get your home, and now you work hard to give it back to the bank before you die. No legacy, no inheritance for your children's children. Again, the resources are here. We just have to learn how to use them. Ask your family, who wants to go to college? How can we pull funds and put money together in a 529 plan for school for kids? What are the youngest kids? What do you got? Okay, he's 5 years old. Okay, can we get a college fund for him? How much? Are we going to pull our funds and go to put him through school? And then when they're done, we do the next person. And when they're done, do the next person. People ask me all the time, they say, "Ryan, is money a blessing?" I say, money ain't a blessing. Money is not a blessing. Money, and I'll tell you why money is not a blessing. Because some people always say, when they say, "Oh, Ryan, how you say that?" If you look out the window right now and you see the leaves and branches doing like this, what is that? That's not the wind. That's just the leaves and the branches moving. You can't see the wind. You can't see the wind. The wind blows, and as a result of the wind, now you have the leaves and branches moving. So what you see is not the wind. What you see is the result of the impact of the wind. You get where I'm going? So what you see when you see money, that's not the blessing. What you see, money, is the impact of the blessing. Where did the blessing come from? What you already have inside. The spirit, the blessings that you have inside that you use to create money. So that's why I can safely say, if you don't have $1 in the bank, you are truly blessed. You don't have to have money to be blessed. You just have to learn how to create it. I was on a panel the other day. It was one of the most dreary panels I've ever been on. And I was fighting, y'all. I was fighting hard. It seemed like they were very content. It was called the rising cost of unemployment. And everyone was so content on being hopeless. They were so content on saying on why we can't be successful. They were so content on pointing out the dreary and using words like, "It's dangerous. It's dangerous." And they would say, "We are at a state now that's very, very," and I'm like, wow, come on. Is it that bad that we lost this hope? You know, my mother taught me about contentment. You know, she taught me a lot about that growing up. And she worked her way off of subsidized living. You know, and I didn't know we were broke. I love the cheese and then milk, made good grilled cheese sandwiches. You know, milk in the can tastes good. Put a little bit in there, add a little bit to the cereal. The big blocks that just say cornflakes, the black letters in the white box. That was cool with me. I didn't know we didn't have any money. But she worked her way off of that because she understood that contentment truly means that I'm not happy to be broke. Despite my situation, I can smile. I'm not happy with my state. I'm happy in my state. And I can smile because I have things that are inside of me that can create wealth, even if everybody, and that's why if those truly individuals who understand the power of contentment don't have to suffer from a recession. We don't have to deal with all this stuff that's going on. And the people gonna look at you, they're gonna say, and a lot of people say, well, Ryan, you know, that's little, you sound so rosy. You know, you sound, you know, rosy is that code name for a little naive. You sound rosy. You sound, you know, you just sound so optimistic. What other choice do you have? What other choice do you have but to be optimistic? Because as soon as you don't, as soon as you're pessimistic, you're focused on the negative and what's going to happen. Self-fulfilling prophecy. If you think you're going to be broke for the rest of your life, you're going to stay broke for the rest of your life. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Period. And it starts right here. And again, we always talk about the mind, and the mind is the most important element of a financial plan. People thinking that they're smaller than their problems. No, you're bigger than your problems. People thinking that at the end of the day, well, wealth is not for me, and I'm just trying to live check to check, and I want to put a cap on my vision. God is over here trying to put an ocean full of blessings in you, and you got a shot glass full of vision. And it's overflowing, but guess what? If it don't go to you, it's going to go to somebody else. So, I mean, I guess I'll take some questions now. If you have any specific questions, but it was on my heart today because I've been seeing, I've seen so much distress. I've seen so much this past month or so. Again, if my voice is heard hoarse because we've had, again, about 25 workshops since October 11th when we kind of officially kicked off. And if that's the one common thread, we've been doing a lot of workshops in homeless shelters and a lot of workshops in the prisons. And if there's one common thread, it's just this lack of hope that I'm seeing. And it just don't make sense. It just don't make sense. How are you going to sit back and have a lack of hope? I mean, how are you going to sit back and say that wealth is not for you? I mean, how dare you? You know, the epitome of selfishness is quitting. The epitome of selfishness is quitting. Imagine if my mother would have quit on me. I wouldn't be standing here today. Imagine if the people around this school didn't quit on educating the students. Dr. Daniels had to go teach a class. Imagine if he quit before he did what he had to do, all the stuff he's had to go through in his life. Imagine if he had to quit. The amount of people that would have been robbed of the blessings that you're supposed to be giving to someone else. So the next time you're sitting there and you're crying and you're dreary, and people do it all the time. I cry. I'll admit it. Because sometimes this stuff gets hard. Life ain't no joke, man. Life ain't a joke. You cry, go and have your little pity party. Get the tears wet, get that pillow full of tears wet for a little bit. Go ahead and grab a drink if that's what you like to do, but don't do it too much. But do what you had to do. Have your little pity party. But in the morning, you wake yourself up and understand that somebody's waiting on your blessing. And that's why you can't stop. You can't stop. And I've seen suicide letters of people, again, when you leave the earth, that's it. As long as you still have a pulse, you still have a purpose. And your purpose is not for yourself, it's for someone else. Someone else is waiting on you. So when you got your business, and again, if you have a business, that idea, if you want to find the most ideas, go to the cemetery, because people die with ideas. People die and never even execute ideas because they're too scared to figure out exactly how successful they can be. They're too scared to realize their full potential. They don't want the responsibility. Well, God wouldn't have gave it to you if you didn't have shoulders broad enough to burden that responsibility. So again, I'll thank you. I'll answer some questions here. And with that, I'll conclude. I appreciate your time today. Any questions? Yes, sir.
As you listen to the media, as you listen to our elected officials, as you listen to the president, they keep saying jobs, jobs, jobs. Jobs and infrastructure, things like that. They keep talking about jobs that basically our community didn't get during the good times. Do you see these jobs coming within the next 5 years?
What's happening is this here. We've had a society. This is going to be some hard truth here. It's real hard truth, and this is why no matter who's in office right now, is going to be able to fix what's going on anytime soon, 2, 3, 5 years from now. Maybe 5, maybe 6 years, but it's going to take some time. We were spending, individuals, corporate, and government, was spending here. And we were using debt to spend this amount, to fund it. Individuals taking out excessive levels of consumer debt, thinking that I can borrow for the day, I'll make it back tomorrow because the economy is so good. So they got loaded down with debt. People using their home equity line of credit as an ATM machine. So we're spending here, government spending money, saying, okay, let's increase the amount of spending on programs, and not necessarily think about what's going to happen tomorrow with this level of debt that we're increasing. So we're spending here, but we really should be spending here. So when the economy collapsed, as we were spending here, businesses who were borrowing to spend here have to now spend here, because this is the responsible level of spending that these businesses could afford. So now it's going to sustain here. Now the businesses are saying that I'm not going back here, and from here to here is jobs. From here to here was job loss. You had to firing. You get yourself down to a level where you're comfortable. And if you look at it, it's $2.5 trillion of surplus on the sideline. We have a lot of these businesses. The earnings are solid. I mean, these businesses are having some of the most stellar balance sheets that you've ever seen. Solid businesses, cash flows is very prevalent, liquidity, oodles of liquidity. But they're just saying, you know what? As opposed to hiring, I'm going to make these level of workers work harder, and I'm going to give a 5% bonus and maybe a 401k match. I'll reinstate the 401k match, which has come back a lot. So I'll give you about 5% increase in pay and benefits. If that'll negate me from having to hire somebody else, I'll pay you another 5% as opposed to putting another $70,000 job on the payroll. So now, that's why you see productivity and real income increasing, because real income for those individuals who are working and making more money. But the problem is that we have a huge gap. These individuals now who are never going to get another job, at least at that company, because it's gone. They're not hiring someone else now because they want to make sure that the workers that they have are more productive. So what are these people from here, what do these people from here to here do? Well, now we have to go through a level of retraining. We have to go through a level of finding another industry even. I was talking to someone the other day. He said, Ryan, I've been in construction for years and I can't find another job. I said, well, you know what? Maybe it might be time for you to find something that's not in construction. You know? Again, a brother just called me about 6 months ago. Got a job. I met him at an alternative high school. He's about 19, 20 years old. In alternative high school where essentially folks get kicked out and it's the only other school they can get into. This brother had tattoos and everything on his face. Comes up to me and says, man, I understand what you're saying. This is about 2 years back, a couple of years back. I understand what you're saying, man. It sounds like, well, that's a whole bunch of pie in the sky stuff. I can't find a job. You know, I'm about to graduate high school and say, I can't find a job, blah, blah, blah. We went across the street to Wayne County Community College. My mother's the vice chancellor there. You know, she worked her way up off, she was doing her thing. You know, she was got her way up off subsidized. Now she's doing her thing, but she's the vice chancellor and of student services. We filled his paperwork out on the spot. Brother called me 6 months ago, got his associates, and he's working. And this is a former gang member who didn't have opportunity, but he had to go to school, get his associates, get retrained, you know, and that's what we have to go through now. Now we are in a period it's going to be stagnant because we have a lot of folks who are essentially having to find new ways of living. I used to be underpining in construction, but now I go back and get my nurse's degree, you know? And it could be something totally different, but they never thought about it because they didn't know the options available to them. And these community colleges have free school, and sometimes if you get financial aid, you qualify for it. Brooklyn Educational Opportunity Center, these individuals get certifications, retraining. So that's what's going on now. I mean, look, unemployment is what? 16.1% in the black community, but it's less than 2% in technology nationally. Unemployment rate is about 9%. Less than 2% in technology. Are you able to get in the field of technology? You know, I was talking to a good friend of mine. She works with IBM. She's an architect. She says every time she goes over, and she talked about the I can't even understand all the stuff she says half the time. But she tries to break it down in a way that I can understand it, but it's just so, the thinking is just so next level. But she said, Ryan, I can tell within certain departments of where she calls them testers. Testers are those individuals that you don't necessarily have to have a high degree of savviness in technology, but a little bit. And she says, whenever I see the whole group of African Americans, those are all the testers. And the individuals just go and they test out they test things, and they go and they do certain things. And it's like we don't challenge ourselves to reach higher. We don't challenge ourselves to have additional education, to go back and get that additional certification so I can move off of this and do something extra. You know? I mean, the battle is won on the 19th hole. You know? The battle is won on that 101st yard, you know? What's that 408 thing, the spray? 409. You know what's called 409? 408 solutions they tried and failed before they got the 409th one. We quit before we get to 409. So it's like we have to just learn that, you know, it's going to be hard. I'm not sitting back and say it's easy. It's easy to say, but it's very hard to do, especially to go back to school again. Folks ain't been to school in years. You have to worry about books and this tests and all the stuff, but if that's what we have to do. I think about the pictures that we had when you think about the 1930s in the real depression, when people were fighting to get a job throwing a potato sack on the back of a truck. They were fighting for that job. And now we have a whole degree of this whole underemployed. It becomes a new term, underemployed. What does that mean? You got a job. A lot of folks don't have a job. You better be proud of that job. It's almost like the stigma of underemployed is, well, that job is not, well, you got a job. A lot of folks don't even have that. It's at least a job that helps you sustain and pay your bills while you do what? Build and do more and start researching and start going into other avenues. Keep your bills paid and start growing. We don't even want to take that job. I don't want to be a part of the underemployed. I don't want to do that. No, take that job. It's a job. And then while you're paying your bills, we might have to sacrifice a little bit. We might have to downsize. You had a 3-bedroom apartment for a long time. Maybe time for a 2-bedroom, or maybe even a 1-bedroom. You know? You might have to move back in with mom for a little bit. You know? Pay her some rent money. You know? But have a plan. When you move back in there, a lot of folks move back into their parents' house. What sort of plan do you have to say, this is how I'm going to get out of your house? Let me show you my plan and strategy. Reveal those type of things. These are the type of decisions, but all this is going to take time. So that's why it's going to take 4 or 5 years to weed all this stuff out. And the strongest are going to survive. The strongest are going to survive. A lot of people are going to quit. A lot of people are going to get left behind. But the strongest ones are going to have to be the ones to lead it so they can do what? Go back and get the other individuals. Start forming those companies. Have the gumption to form the businesses So now you can go back and hire those other individuals and put them to work for you. That's what's going to have to happen in this economy. That's going to take some time. It's going to take some time. Before we get these advanced battery manufacturing type firms in Detroit, a lot of these factories are being underutilized. There's some engineer right now studying at York College that's going to learn how to create the next new solar panel. He's got to go to school. He's got to finish. He's got to graduate. He's got to get his feet wet. It's going to take a little time. Yes, sir.
You can, Brother Ryan. Thank you for all that you've said and all that you've shared. I had the opportunity to look at the places where you're going to be locally, and just want to know if and when you will speak to our brothers and sisters over in Staten Island. You're in every borough except that one.
If they call me out, I'll go. I mean, I have a philosophy that I put my net out, and I have reached out to a few individuals in Staten Island. They don't call me back, I don't go. I mean, for the business owners out there, I think we have to be very candid that sometimes, and we can't force ourselves upon individuals to use your services. And you also have to be very candid about, for those who can't afford your services. If you should know in the first 15 minutes whether or not someone can't afford your services, the conversation need to end. Right then. If they can't afford your services, figure out another way or a resource that can help them out, but don't use your services to help them out, because you have to run your business. I tell folks all the time, it's not patriotic to hire somebody that you can't afford to hire if you're going to go into debt doing so, and now your business is closed and you can't help anybody. That's why we formed a not-for-profit. There's enterprise out there in ways that we can help everybody. We have the for-profit for those folks who can afford it. We formed a not-for-profit. Now we get paid so we can do stuff and go to the prisons where folks can't afford it. There's a way, it's an effective way to giving back and helping people. You know, sometimes we allow ourselves to make other people's burden our own. I just wrote an article the other day called Tell Ray Ray to Get a Job. Because it's true. We have to understand that sometimes when people keep asking you for money, all you're doing is enabling them. You're enabling them to not depend upon you giving them money, but what you have to do is give them knowledge and help them learn how to fish so they don't have to ask you for money. That helps everybody out. Everyone in this room has a family member that's getting drained dry by somebody because they've made a perceived certain amount of money, so now everybody goes after them. No, we have to get beyond this. Yes, ma'am.
You said a lot of interesting things since I've been here, and I want to thank you.
Thank you.
We come from the ideology or the mindset that my heart is the truest mind, so whatever I feel, whatever I actually believe for myself is what manifests. Right? That's how I feel.
Okay.
And you mentioned that you're a capitalist, and I like the angle of being responsible, of, you know, finding your own sort of creativity to create a better circumstance. So my question for you is, how do you feel about bartering? Like, you know, a lot of people, I'm seeing more and more people doing swaps.
Yeah.
And so what's your
That's a great tool. It's a great resource. We barter. You know, I mean, most of my time is spent speaking and doing not-for-profit type, but when I was really heavily involved in the for-profit, we would barter, and individuals would say, hey, you know, I want to, recently, as a matter of fact, we just did something the other day. My partner who does most of the financial advising, helped the sister out, and now she's helping us out with grant writing material. Now, so it's a great way to do all that type of stuff, man. And again, if you have a level, the only caveat will just make sure that you're getting a fair trade.
Right.
Because sometimes individuals want to try to take advantage. And one thing that we don't do, we don't put things in contracts as much as we should. People who know me know I'll sue you in a second. I don't play that stuff, man. I don't play it. Put it in writing. Let folks know exactly what the terms are of the agreement. So it's not even just because you don't trust them. It's just so everybody knows exactly what's going to come out of the deal. And it makes it very clear that if there's ever any discrepancies or misunderstanding, you go right back to that contract. You know, so if you're bartering for something, put it right out. Write it in writing, and then make sure it's very clear. Talk to some associates. We do a lot of business workshops for entrepreneurs. And one of the main things that we do is making sure that you have on your advisory board a banker, you know, and another individual who is of who are other entrepreneurs, so they can have a gauge of things that you might not be able to feel because you're in the fight, but they're looking at it from an outside perspective. So if you're trying to barter, run it by your board. Say, this is what we're doing. And then if your board says, okay, that sounds good, or no, you're undervaluing your services. But you have to have that third party objective party looking at you and helping you out. And putting a banker on your board, we always advise our businesses that we talk to prepare a banker's review once a year, even if you're not going to get a loan. What that does is that it allows you to prepare yourself and to put all your finances, your balance sheets, income statement, cash flow statement, all in a central location, so now you can start to really galvanize all your important information to get an accurate picture of where you're at, and have full disclosure with your board of exactly what you're doing in your progress, and have the banker do if he's on your board, pitch to him, pitch to the banker and see, hey, you know, I'm going to pitch you, act like I'm about to get a loan. You do that pitch, and then they'll say, well, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, and now you get to go back and tweak it, and even if you're not trying to get a loan, now your paperwork is sound. It's a lot of we missed out on a lot of money in African American communities because our paperwork was just not sound. They're trying to give us money, but we can't get money because our paperwork is not sound. We do a lot of things with the development, the Barclays Stadium. Bruce Ratney and all those folks. We got a lot of folks' brothers' jobs, but through subcontractor relationships. But they're having a hard time with the community benefits agreement. Over 20% of all those jobs have to be minority, but they can't find the minorities that have the paperwork and the bonding capacity to fulfill those jobs because and it's frustrating, you know. And I literally went back to Detroit. I went back as far as Detroit to try to find bonding companies that were large enough to come in and form businesses for them, and to see if we can have subcontractor relationships so they can work under these larger, because a lot of these companies don't have bonding because the paperwork is just too shady, and it's just not put together effectively. So if there's one thing I would like, and that's individuals as well. Budgeting is crucial. Businesses, paperwork has to be real sound. If you're not, every individual should be doing their net worth sheet at least twice a year. At least twice a year. Do it one time during tax time when you file your taxes, the other time in November. The net worth, your assets minus your liabilities, is the most important figure, or one of them, of your entire financial plan. How much you own minus how much you owe. That number should be growing. If that number's not growing, essentially what you're doing is you might be making more money, but you're just adding more debt. So you're not going anywhere. So that number should be growing. You should be looking at it twice a year. And you do it in April or whenever you do your taxes, January hopefully, do it a little bit ahead of time. And then you do it in November just to make sure, you know what, right before Christmas. Why? Because you want to make sure you can avoid that Christmas rush and spend them so you know, have an accurate picture of how much money you have or don't have, and avoid that whole Black Friday thing, which was a big scam as well. We got these doggone this stuff here, man. We create these sales. They buy a shirt from a supplier for $10, and they put it up to $100, and then they mark it down to $50, and they have a 50% blowout sale. And we come and running. And they fabricate sales because they know people don't shop unless there's a sale. It's just certain things like that that get my goat, man. I see it all. We see it all the time. And people spending money. It's crazy. It's crazy. Yes, sir.
I gotta ask you, outside of your formal education, what other influences you have a peripheral, personal self-development education? Because a lot of your principles sound like some stuff I've read about 9 different books by one particular author. You know, so I was just wondering what your influences outside of your formal education.
The biggest one is the Bible. Mm-hmm. We do a lot of the books that Brother Michael read. I've read those books, Think and Grow Rich and Rich Dad Poor Dad, but those are okay. But I'm more a practitioner where things like Larry Burkett, Ron Blue, Howard Dayton, Randy Alcorn, these are all individuals who write about financial literacy from a biblical perspective. Lee Jenkins, the first book I ever read that was written, Dick Rousseau's, that was written from a biblical perspective of how to manage money. It's taking care of business. establishing wealth for the African American families. So this is certain. Those are the major. I mean, I've read all the, the Dave Ramsey's and Susie Orman's and but the biblically based authors are the ones that I feel. Purpose-driven life. I thought that was mind changing in terms of a very practical solution, a solution oriented novel that took me on a different direction. And one of the books that made me leave Wall Street, as a matter of fact. I was making tons of money, but I wasn't doing anything to help my people, and that just ain't fun.
I just want to say on the thing of bartering and how you said that you should take it to paper, that's absolutely true. I have a business. My wife and I are both employed.
Yeah.
We both have businesses, and occasionally we borrow from one the other, and we're not trying to scam each other, but life gets busy, and if we had, and we realized about 2 years into the deal, we need to actually write things down because we're getting lost and people are innocent. And then now think about us, we're okay, but suppose we did it with a friend or another family member that's not as intimate as that kind of situation, and next thing feelings get hurt because it's not that people mean harm, but it's just that formal agreement, it just makes things clear and just brings you back focused.
I've had conversations that were about to escalate, and all I had to do was say, hold up. Right there. Argument over.
And the thing I think with us is that we are not, there's so many elements. One, we're not consistent because we don't know the language or we don't believe that we deserve to have abundance, whatever that is. Like we don't have a proper approach with money.
Yeah.
And I can speak because I can say this because I've been there. I'm learning how to come out of a lack mentality. So I think most of us don't have this strong belief that the money is going to be there. But it's like we're working for it instead of finding creative ways to have it flow and work for us. And I think that it's not the material that's going to sustain because, yes, we live in a physical world, and so we have these physical things that must be met. Obligation, but I feel that you have to know, you have to know that you deserve it.
Yeah.
And you have to have a language. You have to be consistent with wanting to learn how to write contracts and have financial literacy, because that's why I'm here. I'll be honest with you. I don't write down things, and because I don't, my business suffers.
Level of debt. People have a lot of debt. You say write down things. People don't write their debt down.
Right.
It's a very simple process. You write down your debt. You organize it from the largest debt to the smallest debt, and you pay from the smallest to the largest. Snowball method.
Say that again. Write down from largest.
You write down from the largest debt to the smallest piece of debt that you owe, in terms of amount that you owe, and then you pay using your budget, your surplus, from the smallest to the largest. Very simple process that. And then, again, in the process of doing that as well, negotiating with these folks. We've done a lot of negotiating. There is money to be found. People say, Ryan, how can you go to the homeless people and teach them about financial literacy? They don't have any money. So, well, first of all, they do have money, and most of them are working. Second of all, even though they might not have that much money, there's money to be found in simple things like negotiating. You got a 10% rate, let's see if we get 7. See if we can take these bills and just lower these bills a little bit. So it's tons of ways of disputing debt that you have that's on there over 7 years old that you can get removed. There's tons of different types of things that we've gotten done for individuals who are homeless by just helping them save a couple of bucks a month. And again, you can't do it unless you organize everything and you get that clear picture. Simple things like calling at the end of the month. Simple tip. Call at the last 5 days of the month are the best time to call collections. Why? Because they want to make commission. So, call it the last 5 days of the month. But when you negotiate with them, say, I want paid in full and not settled to be stated on my report. Why? Because even though it's a $5,000 debt and I settle it for $2,500, maybe they might take that debt that says $2,500 but paid in full, because paid in full means more than settled. So it's a heavier weighting on your FICO score. So certain things like that, it's the simple tips that we do. I mean, if we had time, I would love to sit down and just do a whole 3-hour workshop. That's the stuff I really love to do. But we had a lot of time today, but it's just simple stuff like that that makes these things just go smoothly. You had a question?
Yeah. Now, speaking of that, I was just wondering, I noticed a lot of us, especially when we get certain jobs, we become like very scared to go into that. Whereas I noticed members of other communities, they had the same type of job and they're like 25, 30, sometimes even $40,000 in debt with no problem. My question is, do you think that we play it too cautious as a people?
You're talking about consumer debt, then you're talking about a lot of responsibilities. Because consumer debt and then leverage for a business or something of that sort, it's totally different. If you're sitting back and telling me, Ryan, I want to build this business and I'm going to take out this loan, then I'm like, all right, that's fine. I want to go to school, okay, that's fine. You know, but if you're saying, okay, Ryan, I want to use my debt as a license to pretend and that I'm balling, then that's just the wrong strategy. You know, people, especially as a consumer, people use debt to purchase consumer-oriented items. It's just very irresponsible. You buy a car, the big line of credit you owe on this car that depreciates 25% as soon as you drive off the lot. Rich folks say, you know what? I'm going to only buy a pre-owned certified vehicle, $50,000, 50,000 miles or less, 3 years under, and most of the depreciation is already depreciated in the first 3 years. So therefore, the depreciation expense, which is the largest expense, especially on the onset of the person's vehicle, is gone. So now I'm going to have this car. I'm going to get myself a 4-year loan, or maybe a 3-year loan, or whatever. You pay off your car in 3 years. Then you keep paying that same note only to yourself for the next 3 years. So now you got a car that's about 8 years old, but you got 3 years worth of savings piled up that you might be able to get for a trading value. If you take that original car with your savings, you could turn it into a brand new car and be debt free and not have any car note. So the goal is to get rid of that irresponsible debt, because debt to buy a car is just not responsible. But debt to start a business, well, now you're talking. Now you're talking some good language. So debt to purchase a home. There you go. All right. But in a smart way, because just because you can buy a home in New York, sometimes it might not be good to buy a home here in New York. It might be good to buy your second home first. Maybe go down to Florida. Maybe go up to Detroit. Well, you can go up to Detroit right now with nothing but a pen and a pad to buy a piece of property. Because there's no money down, no money property being sold in Detroit right now. Because the banks just want to unload this property. It's a big movement of Europeans coming to Detroit, buying homes for less than $100. They come in, the homes are not, they don't look that great, but it's for $100. It's a shell, and they're artists, and they refurbish the entire piece of property, and they take over the property taxes, and they make it to a nice little home. It's a big movement of that. People are doing that in Detroit. $100 homes, $1 homes, literally $1 homes. They just take over the property taxes. All you gotta do is get your home reappraised, and now you get your property taxes reassessed. Property taxes come down. The banks are happy because they got the mortgage off their books. They don't have to worry about this stuff because now they can start lending again. So it's a lot of opportunity out there. You don't have to buy a $500,000 piece of property on the first rip. If the property is too high in New York, find another market. You would be suited to going out of town, and as opposed to that $500,000 piece of property, buying a $100,000 home and using an extra amount, even though you could have afforded a $500,000 piece of property. Let's say that $100,000 piece of property, the extra amount, you can buy a property manager. Now he looks at your piece of property over for you. You pay him. You can get a qualified company in order to do that, to manage it, get renters in and out. You don't have to worry about it. It's only $100,000. Property manager don't cost that much. If somebody moves out, you don't have a renter in that piece of property for a long time. Now you sit back with only $100,000 piece of debt on your hands. So you're not pressed. You use that for a few years, let that $100,000 build up some equity in that piece of property. Use that to up leverage and to upgrade. A few years, maybe 10, 15 years, and I gotta say 10, 15 years. It's okay to wait that long. I get tired of people coming to me saying, Ryan, I want to buy a home. When you want to buy a home? Well, about a year. Where are you getting that from? How do you say a year? Like, what does it mean? Have you calculated it? No, I'm just saying if I have to wait longer than a year, then it might, I don't know about it. The year just sounds good. No, you gotta calculate it. You go to websites like fincalc.com and they got the calculators. They can actually calculate how much you can actually afford, and these types of things work. If you have to wait 10 to 15 years and maybe 2 to 3 homes down the line to get your dream piece of property, that's fine. That's fine. When did it say that we have to get this 80-20 no money down loan to get a piece of property right now? Now you got these golden shackles. If in case, Lord forbid, somebody ever moves out that piece of property that you were written out, now you stuck. Lord forbid you lose your home, now you in foreclosure. It's just being smart about it. This immediate gratification is taking over our society in such a way that has made us into greedy, I have to have it now mentality. And that is a losing mentality every single time. Every single time. It's very, very few. You show me a greedy person and a greedy person and an ignorant person, I'll show you a broke person. And it get caught up to them. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I have so many questions. What's the difference between these $100 homes and what we were talking about earlier about people investing in the real estate and then losing the homes down the line because of the mortgage?
So $100 home is just that. It's $100.
So the house is already paid off the mortgage.
Your liability is just $100. Literally, the price of the property is $100. And your liability is paying that property taxes.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Very, I tell you, Detroit, but that's all across this country. A lot of this country. You got to find the opportunity. It might not be here in New York. It might not be here in New York. But you can find it. Any other questions? All right.
What inspired you to write it?
I wrote this book because I read tons and tons of financial literacy books, and I wanted to write a book that could speak to people. And one thing that I realized that in financial literacy books is that it seems like it's more about the author than about the reader. Right. So I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go out and I'm going to get 13, and I found, I think, 13 people who, from all walks of life, from a gang member that we've helped to a formerly incarcerated brother to an entrepreneur. One of my good friends, Andrew Morrison, travels the country helping people start businesses. And they all have stories of how they've used financial literacy to overcome adversity. And now because they were able to do that in certain elements or another, they now give back to society. So I wanted those contributors to kind of lead the charge of, because that's the most exciting component. If you're reading somebody else doing it, as opposed to just listening to me, Ryan just talking down. He's just talking down to me, telling me I'm stupid, telling me I need to shave, telling me this and that. People don't want to hear that other stuff. So I understand that. And for the most part, most financial literacy books, for most people, I'm not saying, no, I love them. But for most people, financial literacy books are boring. So, and I don't know if I'm any different in my book, you know what I'm saying? But I would imagine it's probably not too different than any other financial literacy book out there. I mean, of course, I think I'm good or whatever, but at the end of the day, for most people, they'll probably look at my book and say, that's boring. So but the contributors, though, most people will be able to read about a gang member who was able to get shot, came out of prison, and now he has his own company. That's a good story that most people will read. Or a story about a brother who was in prison about to die. He took a whole lot of pills, and now he's going to commit suicide, and now he's out helping people, thousands of people create jobs who other formerly incarcerated brothers. That's a story that people would like to read. Or just a couple, a married couple. They save their money, they do some good estate planning, and now they like to save. They save up money, and they love to budget. Or my mom, a single parent, told her story. You know, this is what I had to do as a single parent. You know, it's a single parent out there that wants to read that story. That's a story that most folks would like to read. But my pieces, I think my piece is good, don't get me wrong, but most folks would think it's boring, you know? And that's if you're an intellect, you probably like it. But I try to get to everybody, where it's not just the intellects, but the folks who need it. Because most people who read the book are preaching to the choir. So I didn't want to preach to the choir. I wanted to preach to the people who actually needed this information, man. And that was my attempt to do it.
Let's give Ryan Mack a
Thank y'all, man.